Somewhere in southern Egypt, around 700 BCE, handwriting became a secret. A scribe drawing up a legal contract fused so many signs together, in a single unbroken flick of the reed brush, that even other trained scribes struggled to read him. This is not sloppiness. It is the birth of a genuine shorthand, a script Egyptologists gave the almost insulting name abnormal hieratic, a pivotal chapter in the evolution of hieratic and demotic scripts. And to see exactly how it was born, you don't need a translation. You just need to watch one sign, over 2 centuries, slowly collapse. No dictionary, no Rosetta Stone, just the shape of the ink, decaying in slow motion. It is one of the purest examples of evolution you will ever see inside a writing system. Here is why this obscure script matters. Most people imagine writing systems changing by decree, a king, a reform, a new alphabet. But abnormal hieratic shows the opposite. It shows a script mutating from the bottom up, driven entirely by working scribes cutting corners under deadline pressure. No committee designed it. It grew, sign by sign, out of pure everyday haste. If you want to understand the whole evolution of hieratic and demotic scripts, you have to understand this hinge, because abnormal hieratic is the exact moment the everyday hand tears free of the tidy one and becomes its own creature. And it is a rare thing to catch in the act, a writing system evolving not by revolution but by attrition, one tired hand at a time. Set the stage. After the New Kingdom ended around 1070 BCE, Dynasty 21 saw Egypt break apart. Libyan-descended dynasties held the north from cities like Tanis, while the high priests of Amun effectively ruled the south from Thebes, from the great temple complex of Karnak at its heart. This is the third intermediate period, roughly 1069 to 664 BCE. Politically messy, decentralized, regional, and stretched across some 4 centuries. For the first time in ages, there was no single royal court dictating how things were done, and writing, like everything else, went local. A divided country produces divided handwriting. Cut off from a single national standard, the scribes of Thebes kept using the fast administrative hieratic they had inherited from the Ramesside age. But with no central school forcing everyone back to a common model, that southern business hand was free to drift. Generation after generation, it drifted faster. And the people driving that drift weren't royal scribes carving eternity onto temple walls. They were the clerks and notaries of Theban families, men like the Chokites, the mortuary priests, literally pourers of water for the dead, who tended the tombs and whose livelihoods ran on contracts, leases, and inheritance disputes. Their entire world was paperwork, and paperwork rewards whoever can write it fastest. So what actually changed? 2 things: ligature and abbreviation. A ligature is when 2 or more separate signs get joined into one continuous pen movement. The brush never lifts. Think of how you might write th or the without lifting your pen. Now imagine doing that not with 2 letters, but with a whole cluster of hieroglyph-derived signs, dozens of times a page, at speed, every working day for a lifetime. The signs stop being pictures you assemble and start being gestures you fire off from muscle memory. Alongside that, scribes abbreviated, dropping internal detail, letting a single flourish stand in for a sign that once had 5 or 6 careful strokes. Multiply ligature by abbreviation, and legibility falls off a cliff. Paleographers have a word for the invisible thing that's really changing here: the ductus, the exact path, order, and direction the pen takes to build a sign. Write the same cluster 10,000 times, and the ductus fossilizes into a reflex. The scribe stops drawing a picture and starts firing a gesture. That is also why abnormal hieratic is so maddeningly personal. With no central school policing the shapes, every scribe's reflexes hardened a little differently, so individual hands can read almost like private codes. And this is where you can literally see it happen. In the early 20th century, the German scholar Georg Müller, 1876-1921, compiled a monumental reference called the Hieratische Paläographie, published in 3 volumes between 1909 and 1912, a set of tables tracking the shape of each individual hieratic sign, period by period. These tables work in much the same spirit as the Gardner sign list does for hieroglyphics, a systematic catalog letting scholars identify and compare signs across time. Muller's tables run all the way from the Old Kingdom down into the Greco-Roman age, which is exactly what turns them into a time-lapse camera pointed at a single sign. Line those tables up and pick any single common sign. In the New Kingdom, it is careful, its strokes distinct. Follow the same sign down through the columns, into the 21st dynasty, then a century on, then two, and you watch its internal joints melt. The little gaps close. The separate strokes weld into one gesture. No single scribe decided this. It is erosion, captured on papyrus, the way a riverbank wears down grain by grain. That erosion, accumulated over 2 centuries in the South, is abnormal hieratic. And here's the control that proves this isn't just bad penmanship. The formal book hieratic, the hand reserved for religious and literary roles, barely erodes at all across the same stretch. Scribes kept that one deliberately conservative, faithfully copying old masters. So the collapse wasn't a loss of skill. It was a targeted, high-speed shortcut, switched on only for the fast, disposable work of business, and switched right back off for anything sacred. What did they write in this near illegible hand? Business. Real, gritty business. The surviving abnormal hieratic documents are overwhelmingly legal and economic. Sales of land, transfers of temple offices, loans, the paperwork of Theban priestly families protecting their assets across generations. These weren't written on precious papyrus scrolls alone. Everyday transactions also turned up scratched onto ostraca, the limestone flakes and pottery sherds that served as the scrap paper of ancient Egypt. A sale of a slice of temple income, a father dividing his priestly duties among his sons, a loan of grain with interest. This is the texture of real economic life in Upper Egypt, written by the people living it, in the fastest hand they had. For a long time, these texts were a wall. Early Egyptologists who could breeze through classical hieratic simply bounced off abnormal hieratic, the ligatures too idiosyncratic, the abbreviations too local. Reading it again meant rebuilding, sign by sign, the reflexes of scribes dead for 26 centuries. The Egyptologist who broke them open, Michel Malanin, spent decades patiently editing them. His landmark 1953 edition, Choix de textes juridiques, remains a cornerstone of the field. More recently, scholars like Coenraad Donker van Heel have continued that work, steadily expanding the corpus of readable documents. And tellingly, Malanin disliked the label abnormal hieratic so much he preferred to call the script Late Theban cursive, which is the fairer name. There was nothing abnormal about it to the people using it. To them, it was just how you wrote a contract in Thebes. Now the twist. This hypercursive southern script had a rival growing up in the north at the very same time. In the Delta, the same Ramesside business hand was being simplified in a different direction, cleaner, more systematic. And that northern version became Demotic. When the Scythe kings reunified Egypt from the north around 656 BCE, they brought their northern administration and their northern script south with them. The reunification runs through Psamtik I, reigned 664 to 610 BCE, founder of the Sete 26th dynasty, named for the city of Sais in the western delta, whose officials standardized the paperwork of a single country. Within roughly 2 generations, Demotic simply displaced abnormal hieratic, the same northern script that would centuries later earn its middle line on the Rosetta Stone. The last abnormal hieratic documents peter out under the early Scythe pharaohs. So this lazy script isn't a dead end. It's a fork. It's the southern experiment in the great evolution of hieratic and demotic scripts, the one that lost. 2 answers to the same problem. How do you write faster? And the North's answer won. And it's not hard to see why. Abnormal hieratic bought speed by sacrificing legibility. Brilliant for the individual scribe, brutal for everyone else. Demotic bought speed with a more systematic, more teachable set of shapes. Quicker to learn, easier to standardize across an entire administration. In the long run, the script a bureaucracy can teach beats the script only a genius can read. That is why this ghost hand vanished so completely, and why we very nearly lost the ability to read it at all. So the next time someone tells you handwriting doesn't matter, point them at Thebes. A whole script was born there out of nothing but working scribes in a hurry. The birth of abnormal hieratic ligatures, erosion turned into a language. But haste wasn't the only force reshaping Egyptian cursive. Sometimes the pressure was physical, a change in the very tool held in the scribe's hand. That story is next, the rush versus reed pen crisis that changed Egyptian cursive.